Welcome to Melbourne for the Australian Grand Prix. It's race day here in Melbourne as we continue to see which hopefully is the greatest Australian Grand Prix ever. It's a relatively easy track for these drivers, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 3.28 miles of the bumpy streets, 14 turns here in Australia. 3 DRS zones, turns 1 into 1, 3, and 11. Of course, the main straightaway, always a DRS zone, and these turns will offer our drivers a good chance to turn. Let's run you through the order for the starting of today's race. On pole, Max Verstappen. Second, Charles Leclerc, the main battle right now this season. Looking at the rest of the grid, we have Perez, Carlos Sainz, George Russell, Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton, Daniel Ricciardo, Esteban Ocon, Lando Norris, Pierre Gasly, Mick Schumacher in P12, Valtteri Bottas, Yuki Tsunoda, Guan Yu Zhou, Kevin Magnussen in the Haas, Alexander Albon, Sebastian Vettel, 4-time champion, Lance Stroll, and Nicholas Latifi rounds out the grid. It's time to go trackside as we head for today's race. The circuit uses everyday sections of road that circle around Albert Park for Australia. Of course, race 1, Bahrain, Max Verstappen won over Charles Leclerc. Race 2, Saudi Arabia, it was the domination of Sir Lewis Hamilton. Will we see a third different winner today? Maybe another winner to try to get their championship hopes started. 5 red lights. Away we go for the start of the Australian Grand Prix. Max Verstappen leading us down into turn number 1. Sergio Perez into second. Through the corners they go. Red Bull 1-2. They are the only cars starting on soft tires, the fastest tire compound, and it looks like they're going to try to pull away quickly into the turns. Red Bull, Ferrari. That has been what the story in this season is. Fernando Alonso into P4. But it's all Max Verstappen here on lap number 1. The defending champion. Through the high-speed chicane, big problem for today for some drivers possibly. Sergio Perez quickly following his teammate, followed by the Ferraris. Carlos Sainz, P3. Needing to have a good run. Charles Leclerc, P4. Right outside of the podium, right behind his teammate. A little bit wide went Fernando Alonso there on the exit. As you see the graphs coming out from his tires. Leclerc into the turn. P5. Look at this. Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren. His home track. Looking for a good points day today. Starting on, I believe, the hard tires. Yes, they are. Followed by Fernando Alonso and a pair of Mercedes. A little bit wide on the exit there, but carried good speed through the corner, did Ricciardo. Here's Alonso, right behind him. And I believe that is George Russell, leading the pair of Mercedes. Of course, 7-time champion Lewis Hamilton. And there's Esteban Ocon, the other Alpine. Right behind him, as you see, the other McLaren teammate of Daniel Ricciardo, Lando Norris. Starting relatively in the back right now, as we've seen Ricciardo be up in the top 5 today. There's Yuki, is it Tsunoda? I think that might be Pierre Gasly. Mick Schumacher, son of Michael Schumacher there in the Haas. There he is, Yuki Tsunoda, the other AlphaTauri. Followed by Tsunoda is Valtteri Bottas, of course, a veteran at this point. Behind him, Kevin Magnussen in the other Haas. He's not the fan favorite at Haas, but he has speed. Behind him, another veteran. Last season, this is his final season for F1, Sebastian Vettel. This might be Latifi, I am not entirely sure, or it might be Albon. I think it is Albon. Followed by Guan Yu Zhou. And of course the final two in the grid, Nicholas Latifi and Lance Stroll. Coming into lap number 4 of the Grand Prix, actually on lap number 4, Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez. Look at that gap over the Ferraris they have. Of course, that's what you're going to expect when you have the fastest tire compound. But due to them having the fastest compound, they will have to pit earlier than everybody else. That is their strategy, however. Use the compound, get as much as a gap as you can, and considering you will be pitting before everyone else, you can technically pull off the undercut. As you see the grid down the left side of the screen, Verstappen, Perez, 1 and 2 for Red Bull, Sainz, Leclerc, Ricciardo, P5, George Russell, Fernando Alonso splitting the Mercedes now, Ocon P9, Pierre Gasly 10, Schumacher in 11th. Possible points for Haas today from Schumacher, followed by Tsunoda and Norris. Not a relatively good day for Lando Norris, as he is getting outclassed by his teammate big time. As the Red Bulls have about a 4-second gap between themselves and third place position holder Carlos Sainz. Albert Park in Melbourne, Australia, as you know, used to be the season opener. However, throughout these years, has been moved down to the third race of the season. Of course, being replaced by races we've already seen this season, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Look at this! Oh my god, side by side almost! Leclerc went for a send on his teammate, and look at how much Daniel Ricciardo has gained on the Ferraris. Could those tires for Ferrari be wearing out? Oh my god, Ricciardo almost spinning out there on the exit, almost losing the car. At this distance between Ricciardo and Leclerc, don't be surprised if you see a classic Daniel Ricciardo send down to his inside. It is a 3-car battle for P3. Of course, the last podium spot. Here comes Leclerc to the outside of Sainz, his teammate. This is going to give a shot to Ricciardo for him to catch up to them a little bit. And there he does. Sainz almost forces his teammate off the track. Daniel Ricciardo now in P4, right behind Carlos Sainz. Taking advantage of a little scruffle from the teammates there in the Ferraris. Now he's trying to get that 3rd podium position and get his first podium of the season. As you see Sainz there scooting out some dust behind them. That could be some dirty air for Ricciardo. Ricciardo can gain, look at that, right on his bumper almost. Right behind him through both corners. Through the high-speed corner, here comes Ricciardo. Gonna look to the inside. On and through the grass, he gets side by side with Sainz. Stays with them, and it's gonna be Daniel Ricciardo into P3. What an aggressive pass from Daniel Ricciardo, but what else would you expect from a man like him? What a pass in the grass. Of course, a move infamous from another motorsport, but still a huge pass for Ricciardo to get that McLaren onto the podium. Here comes Sainz now, back to the outside. Ricciardo squeezes him last second, stays in front of him. Both Red Bulls staying out as they come on to lap number 8. That pit window opening for them. Ricciardo technically can keep his car out around 8 laps extra than they can. Considering Ricciardo starting on the hard tires in this Grand Prix, an odd choice, but seems to be paying off, as the Ferraris seem to have worn off their tires. He's probably going to be finishing this race on the mediums, which might end up being the highest speed tire in the end. Ricciardo able to hold them off. Oh, went extremely wide. That's how you know Daniel Ricciardo is pushing as much as he can get here out of this McLaren. Early on in Grand Prix, Carlos Sainz has been the better of the Ferraris. We saw it in Bahrain. He was faster than Leclerc at first in Saudi Arabia, and then, unfortunately, pit issues took place. He had to make an unplanned pit stop, sent him towards the back of the grid, actually the very back of the grid, middle of the race. And of course, in Bahrain, it was again pit strategy that affected him, and Leclerc came out in front of him. So, and as Sainz goes down the outside of Ricciardo, probably not going to make that pass work, and he almost loses the back. He loses the back end just a little bit, actually, on the exit. You gotta wonder if these struggles continue for Sainz. Do they possibly move on from him after this season? Leclerc has obviously been fast. As Max... No, that's Sergio Perez. I believe Max Verstappen... Yes, Max Verstappen has came to pit. So that puts Daniel Ricciardo in a, for now, P2. Verstappen, so far, the only car to pit, as he will pit before his teammate Sergio Perez. Verstappen falls to P9. Perez now probably going to come in. Yes, he will, to change tires. Let's see if we can find out what tires Red Bull will be switching to. Obviously, the first pit stall as he's the defending champion. And they will be putting on the hard tires, the slowest tires for now. But later in the run, they will become They will have significantly less tire wear. Daniel Ricciardo, though, after these 2 pit stops from the Red Bull cars, leading his home Grand Prix. A little known statistic that should be said: no Australian driver has ever won the Australian Grand Prix. Ricciardo looking to be the first, as Perez comes out 1 position behind Verstappen. They're staying together. Actually, Pierre Gasly now splits them up. Gasly passing Perez, possibly. Gasly, of course, a former Red Bull driver. He has been improving a lot at AlphaTauri. Wondering if he'll get a good seat coming into next season. The top 3 all together. 1 mistake away from Ricciardo getting passed, possibly, as Sainz stays behind him. Into turn 1 they dive. Sainz with an obviously better corner. Look at the gap he gained on him. Sainz looking to the outside. Ricciardo slams the door on him. See, this is the thing. Ricciardo is going to need to maneuver his car. Like I said, get the most out of it as he can, because those Ferraris are faster than him. Significantly. That is the only reason he's been able to keep Sainz behind him, force him wide in corners, keep him wide on the entries. That way he doesn't get a good exit. Due to this, Ricciardo has been able to keep the lead. As we mentioned, Gasly, a former Red Bull driver, so is Ricciardo. Ricciardo has raced with Red Bull and Renault. Obviously, his prime day is being in Red Bull. As when he was in Red Bull, there seemed to be maybe tempers between him and Max Verstappen, causing to possibly be him the reason for splitting with the team. Ricciardo down the straightaway, no DRS. Possibly using overtake down the straightaway. That might be the reason he's able to stay in front of him. But here comes Sainz regardless, once again, mounting a charge. Oh, Sainz looking to the outside there on the exit. Here he comes, looking down the outside, once again coming into this turn. Can he clear him? No, he will not. Ricciardo get the better exit as he had the inside. Side by side, possibly for P3. For P2 and P3, actually. Ricciardo carries so much speed through that corner that he goes wide. Having a 0.8 second gap now over Carlos Sainz. Maybe the tires finally coming into play, as in a few laps that pit window is going to be opening for these cars other than the Red Bulls. Sainz mounting another charge, going into the chicane. A good, decent, high-speed line there from Ricciardo as he pulled out a gap once again. Here comes Leclerc to the outside of Sainz, coming into the corner, trying to take P2. They stay side by side, and that's going to let Ricciardo take a gap. And I believe that is Charles Leclerc in P2, passing his teammate on the outside. Maybe it was for reasons to not get held up, as there goes one of the Ferraris down the pit lane. That moves, unless he pitted, that moves George Russell into P3. Here's the corner where Ricciardo carries a lot of speed. Does it once again. Ricciardo seeming to be the master of that corner today. If Ricciardo has been able to hold off the Ferraris in a McLaren, you gotta wonder, did they give Ricciardo the best stuff today specifically for this Grand Prix? Or maybe is this showing the weakness that Ferrari still has to need to overcome? Or maybe it's just McLaren, a top team this season. Who knows? But Daniel Ricciardo is showing speed here today in Australia. Going wide on the corner, gonna come into the pit lane. Daniel Ricciardo forfeits the lead. No, the Ferrari comes with him. Lap 14, Daniel Ricciardo, the leader of the Grand Prix, into the pits. He will be switching to the mediums. And it's a good pit stop from McLaren, nice and clean. Everyone else coming down for Alonso. Here comes Max Verstappen into turn number 1, obviously taking the lead. There goes Sergio Perez, and it's Daniel Ricciardo, P3. Will he be able to track down the Red Bulls as they are on the slower tire? If he can, somehow, some way, that will show how much speed that McLaren has. Man, what a race by Max Verstappen so far, though. Dominating, I repeat, dominating this Grand Prix here in Australia. He won Bahrain, just stayed in second in Saudi Arabia as Lewis Hamilton took care of business. I'm sorry, Sir Lewis Hamilton. People might get mad if I don't call him Sir. Nonetheless, Verstappen sliding a little bit on the exit. Verstappen has been out front all race besides after pitting. Maybe hopping the curb a little bit there, but Verstappen took that corner a little bit slow. Still keeping his margin over teammate Sergio Perez, though. Of course, he will. Verstappen, the number 1 driver on the team. Perez, driver number 2. Perez is also known to be the best street circuit racer on the team. Through the corner goes Max. There goes Perez. Look at that shot as Verstappen passes by. There's his teammate. There's Ricciardo behind him. I think, is Ricciardo gaining? I don't know. It's a little bit too early to tell. But it looks like Daniel Ricciardo could be gaining on Sergio Perez. As the laps are winding down, we are almost within 10 to go. I would like to remind people Max Verstappen, the odds-on favorite, I believe at this point, to win the World Drivers' Championship. The odds-on favorite, as I said, back-to-back seasons. As the end of last year, that controversial Saudi Arabian Grand Prix championship crowning of Max Verstappen. And as we look at Sergio Perez, it is for certain Daniel Ricciardo in the McLaren has caught up to Sergio. McLaren, Ricciardo, they have speed today. And if Ricciardo has caught Sergio Perez, is it the tires, or is it actually just McLaren today? Are they just on point on this specific course? Ricciardo to the inside into the grass. He just moves Sergio out of his way. Daniel Ricciardo is a man on a mission, and he wants to be the first ever Australian to win the Australian Grand Prix. Went in the grass, obviously a controversial move. The FIA gonna have to inspect it. But so far, no warning has been given for that move, as he went underneath them, slid up, moved him out of the way, basically. Actually, not basically, he full-on did. But, Max Verstappen, I'd better watch your back. Or you'd better watch your back. Because Daniel Ricciardo, he's coming after you. So we reach the end of this lap. It will be 10 laps to go. With how long these tracks are and the speed Ricciardo has today, do not count him out for catching Max Verstappen. He's on the better tire compound. He has the speed. Daniel Ricciardo might actually have the fastest lap of this Grand Prix, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at my notes here. But he might as well. When was the last time we have seen McLaren be this fast, on point, genuinely this fast in a Grand Prix, though? That is the question. Another question, though, is Verstappen isn't Perez. Verstappen isn't Sergio. He is not Perez. So if somehow, someway, Ricciardo does catch him, he's going to have to get around him, and he's going to have to stay in front of him. And Lord knows at Bahrain, we've seen it is hard to stay in front of Max Verstappen. But this isn't Bahrain, ladies and gentlemen. This is Australia. And I do think Daniel Ricciardo is catching Max Verstappen. Yes, he is. 10 laps for Daniel Ricciardo to get past his former teammate, former rival, and defending champion of Max Verstappen, the man who basically took Ricciardo's seat on that very team. Coming into the hairpin down this straightaway, we will see. Wow, look at that gap. Daniel Ricciardo is there. Daniel Ricciardo has the DRS. Let's see. He's using overtake also. Obviously not much there. Only a 2% overtake. But you best believe Ricciardo is going to give it all he's got. Right, look at the distance between the front wing and the gearbox. The high-speed corner for Ricciardo nails it, doesn't overdrive the corner, and he is in the distance where he can make a pass for this Grand Prix lead. Ricciardo peeking to the inside, not making a move yet, as Verstappen showing the speed. Now looking again to the inside of Verstappen, squeezed him out. Staying with him, here they come through the chicane. Ricciardo on his bumper. To the inside he goes, side by side Ricciardo, and not having it in, he gets almost, I think Verstappen might have put him in the grass, and there was maybe a bit of contact there. Tire bang, Ricciardo forced himself in there. Again, side by side, not enough speed for that McLaren to stay in front of Verstappen. And Verstappen once again almost shoving Daniel Ricciardo off the track. Last time he did, Ricciardo tire banged him. Hit him with the tire. Both tires hit each other and showed his displeasure. But we got a fight on our hands here between these two legendary professional drivers. Ricciardo sends it deep on him, right on his bumper, and Verstappen might have made a mistake because the back end slipped a little bit on the exit. Here comes Ricciardo looking to the outside. Carry speed through the corner. Go to Jesus. Almost loops it, but he almost went to the inside there of Verstappen. Looking to the outside here, Ricciardo not able to get the speed on the exit. Now he's looking to the inside, still not able to be there. Coming into the chicane. Ricciardo got side by side here with him last time. Will he be able to again? Takes the corner maybe better than Verstappen did. On the exit, side by side. Here they come into the other corners. In front of him is Ricciardo. Right behind him. As they come on the hairpin, down the front, down the main straight, they go. Max Verstappen still leading. Verstappen still leading. Here they come. And oh my god, Kevin Magnussen stopped on the track. And another one. AlphaTauri having mechanical problems. There's two incidents on the same time. And they're called for a safety car on lap 23 out of 29. And things might have just gotten interesting. The car of Kevin Magnussen off the track with a mechanical failure. And at the same time, an AlphaTauri, not sure which driver, as you see Magnussen off the track, has a mechanical failure. And if you don't know what a safety car is, it is basically where they have the safety car come out of the pits, pace around, they get everyone single file still moving for maybe a lap or two. Not really, we don't know how many laps it might be. But this brings the whole pack onto the back end of Max Verstappen. You thought it was just Verstappen versus Ricciardo. Anybody can win it now. Ricciardo tapping his back tire right there might have shown another sign of displeasure from Verstappen. I told you these two were ex-rivals, ex-teammates. Ricciardo already trying to keep his tires warm. And Verstappen, I think Verstappen just locked it up going into the corner. As you see, there's a safety car presented by Aston Martin. Sergio Perez, the other Red Bull, onto the back bumper, or going into the back of Daniel Ricciardo. Daniel Ricciardo is now going to be in a Red Bull sandwich. His former team is going to try to deny him from a home country victory. That's what's on the line for Ricciardo. This isn't like other motorsports where if you win, you're in. This is Formula 1. If you win, you get the points, you get the bragging rights. And if you're Daniel Ricciardo here, you make history. You become the first ever Australian winner at the Australian Grand Prix. Talk about pressure. Coming to lap 25 out of 29. The lights on the safety car are still going. Everyone has not caught up yet, so they will be going another lap. Oh, jeez, this just amps it up. We were in sight for a battle between Ricciardo and Verstappen. But man, oh man. It seems most of the cars has caught up. Most of them, not all of them yet. But hey, if it gets to a certain point and not all of them are caught up, well, that sounds like a you problem. That sounds like a skill issue. Maybe you shouldn't have fallen back that far. In Melbourne, Australia, the Grand Prix. Personally, this is one of my favorite tracks on the schedule. As you see, I believe that is everyone. No, there's still one more. There is a Williams. It looks like to be Nicholas Latifi. We should be. Lights go out in the safety car. It is going in this time, and we will be going back racing uno momento. Here it comes. Coming into the lane. On the exit. Prepare to begin racing. As they get up to full speed, you can't pass until you get to the line. Look at the gap created by Verstappen. Of course, DRS not active this lap. Here comes Ricciardo, looking to the outside. Is he there? Ricciardo trying to get in there, trying to take the lead away. Can't get it. Here they come into the other turn. Ricciardo looking to the outside, now the inside. Still behind Verstappen, still trying to find a whole way to get by him. Goes wide, carrying speed through the corner. Pardon our camera work, or the skips. Mechanical issues there for us. Here comes Ricciardo again to the outside. No. Ricciardo on the back of him. Waiting for a mistake or just any chance he gets. And this might be it. Once again, Ricciardo to the outside. Coming into the chicane. If he stays there, he's going to have the inside, and he gets clear. Daniel Ricciardo, the crowd going wild. Daniel Ricciardo is leading the Australian Grand Prix, but here comes Verstappen to try to steal it right back. On the outside, Ricciardo not going to force him off. He actually gives him the room. Verstappen trying to take it back on the outside. It's going to come. He's going to get the inside now, and he stays in front of him. Ricciardo pulls the switch back, moves him a little bit wide there. Can Ricciardo stay on in front? He goes wide on the exit. A contact there from Verstappen and Ricciardo. That could have been very dangerous. Daniel Ricciardo, 27 out of 29, side by side for P2. Daniel Ricciardo possibly pulls away. Here goes Perez. Perez locks it up on the exit. Daniel Ricciardo, if he can keep this lead, he's going to make history. The speed of Ricciardo through that corner is unmatchable. Look at the gap he has created. And all because Verstappen and Perez battled it out just for that little bit in the corner. Verstappen with the Red Bull obviously has more speed. He's going to need to catch up and catch up fast as time is running out for him to deny Daniel Ricciardo glory. And believe me, Verstappen has done that to Ricciardo in insurmountable amount of times. You're about to see possibly how much speed this Red Bull has down this straightaway. Two laps to go for Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo goes in. Here comes Verstappen. On the exit, still there. Not much gain, but he might gain it through here. Will he? Ricciardo trying to keep distance. You see, Max had to feather the throttle through that corner, but Ricciardo just went full throttle. Ricciardo maintaining that gap. Oh, Ricciardo might have just made a mistake. Trying to keep his tires as tight as he can. Coming into the chicane. Max Verstappen gaining. Verstappen gonna have DRS down the straightaway. Oh, Verstappen is there. Here we come onto the straightaway for the white flag. Daniel Ricciardo leading, and here we go. White flag, final lap here in Australia. Verstappen looking to the inside. Here he comes, side by side into turn number 1. An easy pass for Verstappen. Goes to the grass a little bit there. Just slows down, kind of parking the bus there. Here comes the Ferrari in P3. He has a battle for it. He has a chance. He's going to look to the outside of Ricciardo. Ricciardo going to look to the inside of Verstappen. Side by side for the lead. Here they come. Ricciardo back to the lead. Here he goes. The crowd again going crazy. You can't really hear it though because we are in the booth. Daniel Ricciardo. Just a little bit away from making history, but here comes Verstappen. Verstappen back out in front. Trying to deny the history from Ricciardo. Look at the gap. Ricciardo gonna need to have speed here in the chicane. Gonna need to try to stay there with Max. Here they come through the corner. Ricciardo. Oh, he's in sending distance for Ricciardo standards. Does he do it? Looking for it. Doesn't do it here. Coming into the final corners. Verstappen has a big enough gap to come into the hairpin. Ricciardo gonna send it. And Verstappen moves out of the way. Side by side. He pushes him out of the way. Down the front straightaway. It's side by side. Verstappen. Ricciardo coming to the line. It's too close to call. We're going to take a replay. In slow motion. I still can't tell who did it. We're going to need a picture. And Daniel Ricciardo wins the Australian Grand Prix. He is the first ever Australian winner for the Australian Grand Prix. Oh my God, what a finish. Daniel Ricciardo has done it. At the line over Max Verstappen. And I can't tell you how big this is for McLaren, for Ricciardo. Look at that car. Look at the dirt. Wow. Give yourself a pat on the back. I should give yourself a shoey. What a race by Daniel Ricciardo. And you deserve this very much, Daniel. Congratulations.